All right. Well, guess what? We're back. And you know what? This is about all of us. It's about somebody that actually knew him forever, and it's about somebody that had knew him for just probably, several months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you said that you wanted to say some stuff too?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jessica, it is all yours.
Honestly, what I'd like to say is, I did not know Jonny Hollywood very well. I knew him in passing, I knew him briefly, but what I can say is he was genuinely one of the sweetest men I have ever met.
Mm-hmm. He had a big heart, didn't he?
He had a very big heart.
Mm-hmm.
And, to be honest with you, like, when you're, just even briefly being around, any of the boys, for that matter,
mm-hmm.
You come across, people that aren't genuine, and then you come across people that are just there for the sake of being there.
Right.
And he really, really sincerely loved this business.
Mm-hmm.
He loved wrestling, and he loved everyone in it.
That's true.
And
You're right.
that was something that, I definitely applaud him on. He was one of the sweetest people that I ever met. Like, I remember when I would go to the shows, he was one of the first people to look at me and say, "Hey, sweetheart," and I'm just like, "Hi," and he always knew,
Right. He always knew what to say.
Right.
He always knew when to say it, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Johnny was a smooth talker now.
He was.
He was a very
He
smooth talker.
definitely was. But, Jonny Hollywood was a great guy, and it's definitely a very sad loss.
It is. It is. And then all of us are going to miss him.
Very much so. Very much.
Well, you know what, I'm just glad that you wanted to talk. I mean, what, just talking on camera, I mean, I would say like a lot of people just don't feel that good about doing it, but you wanted to talk, and you know what, I just want to applaud you for doing it. So yeah, thank you for saying what you said, and that was awesome. Johnny's going to be missed by like fans and by friends and by, just people that, just didn't really know him all that well, I mean, if you met him, you liked him.
Oh yeah. Like, honestly, just the brief interactions I had with him were always pleasant, and he was just pleasant to be around. And he was definitely a joy to be around, and he always was very positive when I was around him.
But yet Johnny was nicer to the girls than he was to the guys. You know that, right?
I did kind of notice that.
Yeah,
I definitely noticed that.
He
but,
was a player from the word go, boy.
Yeah, I've definitely
I don't think Johnny ever met a woman that he didn't like. He had no boundaries. None. So.
Yeah, I've heard some stories. Yeah, I definitely heard plenty of stories.
Stories we can't tell on here, but
not appropriate here.
And also too, this is for, like his family,
mm-hmm.
and his friends, because I would like them, would just have a copy. And yet, what, Johnny's passing has really, affected a lot of people. All of his friends and his family.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny loved his family. And yet Johnny loved his mother, and that was one thing
mm-hmm.
about Johnny, that the man loved his mother and he loved his sister. It's just hard to talk about him because, I get kind of, I would say choked up too. But, even though that I'm hurting, I know that his family is just hurting 10 times worse. So, this is a sad day for all of us.
Oh, most definitely. And,
so.
I can definitely appreciate what you said in regards to his family, because he did seem very close to his family.
Yes, he did.
And, I can take the words that, my mother actually said, it's one of the most painful things to lose a child.
It is. It is.
I honestly, my sincere condolences to his entire family. And, he's definitely going to be missed.
Amen. Well, you know what? I thank you for coming on here and then you're sharing your stories with us.
No problem.
And then we'll be right, guys. Guess what? We're back, and you know what? They were just talking about actually fighting Granny, and I just wanted to say, I always talked about how like Johnny loved to steal heat. He loved to, that was what he did. He stole heat, and he got beat up for it a lot. But there was this one fan that everybody called Fighting Granny, and I could get her going. Anybody could really get her going.
Oh, yeah.
She was a lot of fun, but I would have a lot of fun with her, and he saw that, and he stole that heat from me. I don't know how many times, but that's something that I'll always remember was that I'm getting heat from her, and boy, he jumped right in. So
he was one of them guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got with me here. It actually was Zulu Spirit.
Zulu Spirit.
Zulu Spirit. Yeah, everyone's got an actor Jonny Hollywood story. His is a real good one. I want you just to hear this. If it's good or bad, I don't care like what it is, you know. I mean, this is all about him today. So, so I'll just turn it over to you and you tell your story.
Well, I didn't have a lot of interaction with Jonny Hollywood. I probably met him one time when I first broke in. He came to a training session and just came to touch base with everybody because I was guessing he was probably out of town for a long time and came back in. But when I was in the team called the Onyx,
Tag team.
Greatest tag team there ever was. But I was in the Onyx, and he had the House of Hollywood. And before we went out,
That's right, House of Hollywood.
He interviewed us. And while he was interviewing us, you know, he has skin tight jeans, you know, skinny jeans, so it looked like they were painted on, with a cup in front, so you don't see any, you know, any correct parts.
I mean, that was just porno jeans.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. You know, that stuff.
That was him.
Keeps your sword sharp, I guess. But so he's like, "Hey guys, we got the Onyx. It's the House of Hollywood."
There you go. The
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And we're like, "Come on, man, relax a little bit." And we pickpocket him. And while he's talking, we're going through his wallet.
Hoping you're gonna find something worth anything.
He's House of Hollywood. He's making money, so we find there's no money in there.
No, there's not.
You know, he had like a hair. It was weird and curly in there. A moth.
That was from his first porno movie.
Probably. I heard stories about that. I don't even want to get into that. But and I was asking actually.
That's true.
Mr. Electricity.
Uh-huh.
He's the only one that's probably that said he's seen it. The actual movie. But he had a little
He got a copy of it.
Yeah, he did. He's probably downloaded it. But he's got like a little weird curly Q in there, and half of a dead moth.
And you remember that, don't you?
It burns in your mind.
It does.
He had a maxed out Diners Club card.
Diners Club card.
And a couple.
He said he got that from Tom Selleck.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, Magnum PI.
Magnum PI.
But yeah, there wasn't any Magnum things in there.
Johnny was. I mean, he was a strange character.
Yeah.
But he always made you laugh.
I tell you another. Actually, you know what? A training story. He was. I guess he showed up to train, and whatever random woman that was there with him, it looked like he just got her out of county and just decided, hey, let's go visit some friends.
And he did that for 15 years that I have known him. He would bring some girl that he just broke out of prison.
That's good.
Okay, to all of our training stuff, and some of them would chase the other wrestlers around, and I mean, but that was him. You never knew who he was going to bring. You never knew where they came from, and then again, you know what? You never knew what you'd catch.
Hey, you know, he was living on the edge.
He was.
Sometimes, you know, what they say, YOLO. You only live once.
You only live once. Only live once.
But the funny thing was, when he brought this random girl in there, and the guy was training, this random girl just decides to go into the ring. Is like, can I help? Maybe I got something I can probably contribute to this training session.
The girl did?
Yeah.
There you go.
She just walked in
there.
There
You go. All right.
Just randomly. He didn't say nothing. He didn't give her, you know, like when you bring your friends.
But it was always, hey, honey, or it was either, hey, darling, hey, darling, hey, honey.
You bring your random friends to wrestling. You tell them, like, there is a code, like, you don't pass this line. He didn't tell this woman this line.
They passed every line imaginable.
Yeah.
You know, there was one time whenever Johnny was like, it was so funny. Man, I used to like go to the gym, okay?
Yeah.
And I used to just have a ring in the middle of the gym, and Johnny was, you know, man, I can handle it. You know what? You can go off and you can just do your business. You know, I can run this place by myself. Trust me. And he kept on and on and on.
Yeah.
So I finally said, okay, listen, I've got an errand to run. I said, I'll be back in about 3 hours, okay? I can handle it. I can do it, man. I can do it. I said, okay. So I leave, and I come back, and I open the door. And there is Johnny and a hooker passed out in the middle of my ring with a bottle of Wild Turkey laying.
Oh, that's great.
Now, you know, they were both fully dressed, but just the fact that they were passed out in the middle of my ring, you know. But you know what? That was him, though. You know what? You never knew what you were going to get from him.
Yeah.
That's him.
That's wonderful.
I mean, let me ask you this. You know, did you ever know like him and his motorcycles?
No, I just knew him strictly from wrestling.
You know, but Johnny would buy these bikes that were just about to fall apart.
Oh, okay.
And I got to ride one of them one time with him, and they actually had no brakes at all.
Oh,
I mean,
beautiful.
now, when I say like no brakes, I mean downshifting and then just stop with your feet brakes.
Oh, okay.
That was exactly how he would stop, and then he would hit a pole with a bike in order to stop it. He would just drive up to boop, and that's how he would stop it.
Okay, so he would never go past 30 miles per hour.
Well, no, that's not true.
Oh, he was going.
He would go 50, 60 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
And then just basically depend on something to stop him.
Mm.
That was him. All out, man. And that's what made him fun.
He must have had some good shoes.
He
Wore out a lot of new shoes.
Wore out a lot of new shoes. A lot of new shoes. Well, anything else you want to say? If there's one thing that you'll always remember, I mean, about him.
His Maxed Out Diners Club card.
His Maxed Out Diners Club card.
And his random gift cards like that.
That's classic.
He had one to Service Merchandise.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. He said he bought a silk shirt from there. Ruffles.
Wow. Well, is there like anything that you would just like to just tell his family?
Well, I hear all these great stories of him, and he was a vibrant, funny guy, and I wish I had a chance to know him a lot better than the short time that I did get to meet him.
Well, you know what, he'll be missed by, I mean, all of us.
Yeah.
So, well, man, you know what, I do appreciate you just stopping by.
Yeah.
You know, and just thank you for your time. We'll be right back. All right. Well, guess what? We're back with the infamous Canadian Ninja. If it's wrong, it's got to be right. We're here with Danny Wright, the referee. And yet Danny's got some really good stories about Johnny. You know what this is all about, Johnny? At the end, I'm going to just ask you, what you should just say some things, I would say just to his family, I mean, and also, I mean, at the end, I'm going to just ask you, man, if there's one thing, that you'll always remember, I'm like, what is it about Johnny? All right? But I'll just turn it over to you, and I'll let you just tell, I'm like, whatever you want to, man, about Johnny, good or bad, you can tell.
Well, I didn't know him very long, only past a year or so, because of playing wrestling. And it was up one time, we were taking the ring to the building, and we had a flat tire on the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you were about had it that night, because
Yeah. I wanted to be there at 6, and it was now, what, 9 something?
we got there like 9:30 when finally we said, yeah, let's go ahead and get everything out, but
Yeah.
couldn't get a tire to save our life just to get on the trailer and get going.
That's true.
Trying to get that tire off that sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Johnny was just Johnny. He was just everywhere.
Yeah. You know what, Johnny had so much energy. I mean, I don't think that I've ever saw him crash. And Johnny was a ball of energy 24/7.
Oh, I really only knew him when he was up. He was up there. But yeah, he wanted to get the House of Hollywood back going. He contacted me to help him do that. And we're trying to get things together. And I talked to him a week beforehand, and
You know what, that was his dream, by the way, was the actual House of Hollywood. Basically, what it was this. Johnny had this vision of just taking his video camera and basically filming every stupid thing on the planet. And, nothing was off limits. He had a friend of his, and I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy was in a car wreck. And
yeah, he was telling me that.
yeah. And the whole actual right side of this guy was, I would say, it wasn't paralyzed, but it was like a nervous tick, and and just out of the blue, he would start the guy's arm would just start flapping, and Johnny would take him in to like a grocery store, and just and then take him up by these cans, and the guy's arm would start flapping around, and cans would start falling everywhere, and people would run up to him and try to stop him, and his arm's flailing, and Johnny would film this. And, I mean, he loved that stuff. And I felt so bad for the guy. And yet the guy was in on it, too, because, he actually couldn't help it. But it was Johnny's sidekick. And, they would walk into a bar with bikers, and the guy would just start flailing his arm everywhere. And Johnny would film it, and the guy would get his butt handed to him, and Johnny filmed the whole thing and laugh. Everything was funny to Johnny, and the House of Hollywood would be filled with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Johnny would basically just make fun of everybody, And that's what the House of Hollywood was. He didn't take anything seriously. And that's probably Johnny never judged anybody. And this is something that I had actually said before. And so everything was funny to Johnny. Nothing was off limits. And you never took anything seriously. And that's probably the beautiful thing about Johnny was that, Johnny knew that he was messed up, but he made fun of it. It was all funny. And the sad part about that is that, yeah, it was funny, but it actually got to him at the end. Yeah. And, it is a tragedy. And like I've said before, you either just loved him or you hated him. There was no, in between. But Johnny never met an enemy. He always made friends everywhere that he went. Yeah. So if there's one thing that you'll always remember,
he was always energetic. He was like playing wrestling. He was trying to work, make sure everything was just right. Like
and he always did things, everything just had to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Everything had to be perfect. Now, did he know everything? He would tell you that he did,
yeah. He'd tell you, but...
he always had something to say, didn't he?
Always.
Yeah, well, if there's something that you would like to actually, let's say, just say, to his family, is there something that you'd like to say to him?
Well, he was a great guy. He really was. He was easy to make friends with. Mm. You just had to get used to him, and we all got used to him, and we all loved him. Really did.
Amen. Well, Danny, man, you know what, dude, I just thank you for coming out, and I know from me and from Danny and everybody else, Johnny will be, just missed beyond missed. So, well, man, you know what? I thank you for coming out, and guys, we'll be right back. We're back with just talking about the biggest heat stealer that I've ever met. And if all this sounds like basically with us, like we're being mean about him, we're not.
It's more like a roast.
Yeah, because that's how he lived. Honestly, with the guy had the biggest heart. Like I said, he would help anybody. He'd do anything. Johnny, of all people now, Johnny, that was, I'm going to say this, him and the cops didn't have the best kind of relationship. He was always in trouble with the law. As a matter of fact, the cops knew him by name.
Right.
And, the whole thing was that Johnny was driving down the road one day, and yet there was a cop trying to arrest this guy, and this cop was actually fighting this guy. Johnny stopped and actually helped the officer. Now, Johnny's been on the other end of that many, many times, but he stopped and he helped the officer, basically. And yet Johnny came to my house afterwards, and he was still hyped up, and he was still, but that's just who he was.
Absolutely.
There was another time when this, and this was a sad thing, but it also tells you all about Johnny's character. Johnny lived on the beach, and it was a bad storm one night, and this big tornado dropped out of the sky and hit Johnny's house. Just Johnny's house. Totaled the house. Wiped it out. All right? And there was national news there, and they were going to interview, Johnny. They actually, Johnny said, wait a minute, and he goes in the rubble, finds a pair of his black sunglasses, pulls his hair back, puts his sunglasses on, and then does the interview.
Now we're good to go.
In his classic Jonny Hollywood fashion.
Vintage Johnny.
That was who he was, he was just, Johnny was a 24-hour promo.
Absolutely. It was, imagine some kind of high-speed instrument being switched to high and then having the handle broke off. That's the only way I can describe it.
What's so bad about this, and I've actually said this probably 2 or 3 times in this whole thing, is that even though I would say, man, even though we're gonna miss him, Johnny's family's also gonna miss him.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a
even
doubt.
10 times more than we will. And to his mom and his sister, which I've had the pleasure of actually meeting, and yet they're just wonderful people. And I can't tell you how bad I actually just hurt for you. Johnny was a great guy, and Johnny was what he was. There was no sugarcoating it. Johnny was Johnny. He was, when he was from Chicago, You know, he was from
Right.
Chicago.
Right.
Johnny knew everything. Johnny was an expert on everything and didn't mind telling you about it.
No, not at all.
And you know, usually people like that you can't stand to be around. But you know, Johnny just had this actual way about him that just drew you to him.
There was
you
a
know?
flavor about when he talked about something, he did it with such commitment and passion.
That's-
Whether it was true or not, didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was-
Yeah, I mean, you know, he was, everything was about Johnny, and yet Johnny knew how to promote himself. You know what I think better than anybody, you know.
Right.
And I mean, you know what, it was great. There are several things coming, I think, on the
Facebook Messenger.
Internet
There were
or
several.
Facebook?
Right. There were several people that wanted to be a part of this, but being living out of town. I believe we got a message from Jolene and Heather, collectively known as Vision and Fate, who wrestled at Planet Wrestling. They sent a message.
Yes, they wanted to send their condolence and love, and that they will definitely miss the wrestling brother. I have talking to Michael Jacobs as well.
Michael Jacobs. Wow. All right. What do you say?
He said that, of course, that he'll miss Johnny, and that he wanted to share a story. He said that he scared the crap out of Johnny once while they were driving. Michael cut off 2 oncoming cars to get to the old PWA building. He nearly stood up in his Grand Am and just about gave his life to Christ all in the same moment.
You know, just about.
He said I was crazy, talking about the pot calling the kettle black. They missed me by literally a foot. That was when you guys were doing a parking lot show at Walmart.
Oh, the big Walmart show. Who can forget that?
Man, that was
You had to
10
get
years
some
ago.
music or something, and Johnny had tagged along with them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mike Fresca.
Okay.
He just wanted everybody to know that he didn't know Johnny that well, but he does know and personally believe that he was a great guy and knows that he will be missed.
Yeah. And then Brian Cage said he just didn't like him.
Yeah,
You know,
Brian's,
it would just be in the heel that he is all the time. Don't like him.
Well, when this initially happened, Ron Horn actually wrote up a really touching piece on
Yes,
Facebook.
he did. Yes, he did.
And
Tristan Michaels wants just to say to rock heaven Hollywood style.
Yeah, and you know, Johnny was all for the alternative lifestyle guys. He was all for that. So hey, there you go, Tristan. So
Tony Sweat.
Tony Sweat. Good or bad, just don't say nothing. You can't cuss.
Tony Sweat wanted us to know that he was a good friend of Johnny's, and they were in the business together for 15 years.
Yeah.
He's so very sorry for his family's loss. He was a great man in many people's eyes.
Yeah. You know, this is just a small thing that all of us are doing. The big thing about Johnny was that Johnny left a legacy, and that's what's important. At all of the funerals, anybody can actually get up and then just give a eulogy, but you live your own eulogy.
Right.
And yet Johnny did. Johnny told his story, at the time you met him. I mean, and so, this is Johnny's story. And, I just hope that, what tonight, after all of this is over with, that you understand that, Johnny was a consummate performer. He was his character 24 hours a day. He actually lived the Johnny Hollywood character.
you see, that was Johnny the character, or was the character Johnny?
Yeah, see, that's just it. I mean, that was what was scary. I actually knew him for 15 plus years, and I mean, I am deeply saddened. I'm angered, but I'm also deeply saddened, and so, I'm going to miss him because I keep thinking that at any moment, he'll just walk through that door, because that's what he did. He never knocked. He just walked in.
Right.
I mean, there was times when I asked him, I wasn't even home. He would get in my house, and you know what? Johnny'd be on the couch when I came home,
Right.
But you know what? That was him.
That's a good segue into one of the stories I have about him. Speaking of breaking and entering,
Speaking of
our
cops can't get in that. So
right. So that's what I'm telling this.
there you go. Okay.
Our first show at Loxley, you had noticed on the second floor there was a
That's
spotlight.
right. That's right.
And I came up to you and you were staring at it and you said, it would be great if we could utilize that. You
Where's
had
John?
this- Well, and I said, the door's locked. Is the key to the building to the lock? You said, no, it doesn't. And you stood there a minute. Me and my son Nick, at the time, who was about 17, you said, go get Hollywood. I
Go
said,
get
serious?
Hollywood.
He said, yeah, he'll know what to do. We went out there and got Hollywood. And of course, he came in. And first he said, I need a knife, a pair of scissors. He gave me, you know, a list of everything he needed. He put on his black jacket, put his shades on. And there's about 10 of us in there. And he goes over there and he starts working on it. He stops and does one of these. And I said, Johnny, there's only like 10 of us in
He's
here.
so used to doing that, though.
But he got in, and when he got in, he dropped the tools and walked right back outside. And so
Yeah.
my son actually looked at me and said, well, now I know how to do that. And I was like, well, see, you learned something. So,
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know what? Everyone's got a story like that about you. I am saddened because I never got to see the actual finished product of, you know, Johnny's a big deal, which was the House of Hollywood. He also had this thing. It was called Johnny's Big Wiener Wagon. And Johnny had a dream of having this hot dog stand, and yet Johnny bought a hot dog stand, and he kept telling us that it was going to be called Johnny Hollywood's Big Wiener Wagon.
wow.
And that never got off the ground. I'll tell you this. This was funny. Okay, it's been said that actually Johnny had a ton of girlfriends. I mean, he would fall in love with them, and then the next thing you know, he'd have another one that he fell in love with. Anyway, there was one girl that he kept bringing over to my house, and she spoke no English. She couldn't speak a lick of English. And she would come over and sit there, and he would just cut on her something fierce, and she'd be just, you know, smiling real big, and he'd say, "Ain't that right, Beatrice?" You know, I mean, you know, her name wasn't Beatrice, but that's what he called her.
Right.
You know, and she would just agree with everything he said. You know, but they got along beautiful.
Right.
You know, maybe she couldn't understand him, maybe she could and was just playing him. Who knows? But it was the funniest thing. I felt so bad for her because, you know, he would always say the most wildest stuff about her. You know.
Right.
But you know,
Johnny was the type of guy you could just sit back and watch him from afar and really get yourself entertained.
you could because he was in his character 24/7, wasn't he?
I tell you what, you know, everybody's telling funny stories. I actually have a pretty good one. It was back in the PWA days, the early days, when you were right up the road.
Mm-hmm.
It was my son's first wrestling event I ever took him to. He was about 5 years old at the time. And the first match, I don't remember who was wrestling, but I remember Johnny came out. And of course, my son was booing him. And he turned around and said, "You shut up." My son instantly started crying. And he reached over and touched his face and said, "I'm so sorry, kid. I'm really a nice guy." And then he kept on going. And then he came over and told him to get it. But you know, my son didn't mind booing him after that. You know,
right. After he didn't just, yeah. And you know what? That was Johnny. Johnny, you know what? His heart was huge. You know, Johnny had a big heart, and he would, you know, and he hated to actually see kids cry. He actually loved kids.
Right.
Oh my gosh, did he love kids? And you know, Johnny, let's see, was it? You know, Johnny had actually, let's see, was it? You know, Johnny just had a son too, and he cared a lot about his son. You know, I mean, it's just.
The funny thing is, 15 years later, my son's doing some of the lights for Planet Wrestling. He went up to Johnny and said, "You know, you made me cry when I was 5." And I said, "So what? You want to make something of it?"
Oh, Johnny.
But you know, I believe Danny Wright earlier talked about that trip between here and Loxley where we broke down.
With a tire?
Oh my gosh, I actually have a pretty good story about that. Now, anybody that knows Bob in the last 5 or 6 years knows he's a very even, emotionally guy. He's usually on an even plane. Well, that night, Bob was pretty upset. He was getting angry. He was getting perturbed.
Not me. I don't do that. You know that.
But the scene was, it was Johnny riding with you in the truck, towing
Oh, yeah.
the trailer, and in the car with me, I believe it was Tristan Michaels, Danny Wright, and then we had a student. So we're broke down. We were out there, 4 or 5 hours at least.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it anyway, but.
No, we were out there 4 or 5 hours.
and to Johnny, that was like the night at the Improv. He was.
Oh yeah. He was on.
Well, Tristan, being the warrior he is, came up to me and said, "You know, have you ever seen Bob like this before?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "We ought to just keep Hollywood next to Bob so he'll get any of the heat." That's ridiculous, man. And I thought about it, and I said, Hollywood, Bob wants you, and we sent him right over there to Bob.
Thanks, appreciate
in case
that.
you needed any help.
Sure.
But
You know when Johnny loved karaoke.
yeah,
God, he loved karaoke. And there was one time whenever Johnny was at this karaoke club, and he sang 6 or 7 songs in a row. And so they wanted somebody else to get up there and sing. I'm like at least to share it anyway. But he did not want to give up the microphone. That was his. He didn't want to give it up. And he ended up getting into a fight with the people that owned the bar and actually owned the. He fought everybody because he didn't want to give it up. And and I think he got his arm broke on that night.
wow, that is insane.
Then he actually comes over to my house with this big cast on his arm. Says he can't stand the cast, so he cuts it off at my house. Takes a saw.
Sounds about right.
Cuts it right off. But that was him. I have said this over and over again. Johnny, what, you are going to be missed, and what, to your family, we loved him. All of us did. Johnny wasn't perfect by any means. Johnny did some bad stuff, but what, that's what made him him, and all of us loved him for it. And this is about him, and this is for you. I want to just end it on this, okay? I had talked to Johnny a bunch. About salvation. And Johnny, as far as I know, had never gave his life over to Christ. But Johnny asked a lot of questions, and Johnny was a very intelligent man. As a matter of fact, his IQ was just way up there. Johnny was a very smart man. Unfortunately, he thought that really nobody could ever tell him anything, and he actually said on like many occasions, that I am my own God. I am my own God, and as as an actual God-fearing Christian, I actually just hope and pray that in those last moments that he did give his life over to Christ, because then I will get to see him, again one day.
Absolutely. I want to point out one more thing really quick. I know there's a lot of people out there he rubbed the wrong way, and I've known Johnny since the PWA days, and I was fortunate enough in the last year and a half to really get to know him, from running at Planet Wrestling and on Facebook, and I feel bad for the people that just know him from what they've heard or anything.
Right.
They never really got to know him, and that's a shame, because he was a good guy, and opinions vary, and that's fine, but
Yeah.
I just miss having him around. It sucks.
Yeah, it does. There's nothing fun about this. This is something, what all of us are doing strictly because we loved him so much, and what, it does hurt. It actually hurts bad, but Johnny was our friend, so if we could just send him out in a bang, I guarantee you, what, he'd be right here with us,
Yeah.
So, Johnny, all of us love you, brother, and what, I'm just glad that you were like in our lives for the 15 to 10 years, whatever. Everybody knew you as, but I'm grateful that you were like in my life for the past 15 plus years. I've got a lot more stories to tell, but I could be here for hours doing it. So, just know, for the friends and the family, and that Johnny was loved. He was loved tremendously. That's all I can say. Johnny was like a brother to me.
Right.
So, and what, man, I want to thank you guys for actually, just doing this. This was y'all's idea, and it was a great idea. And Johnny really wanted to be remembered, and basically, what better way to just keep Johnny's memory alive is on the net. This will always be there. Johnny Hollywood's name will always be there from now on.
Right. And
So-
he'll always be in here and in here.
Absolutely.
And the thing that helps come from me is that they're not really gone if you remember them.
Yeah. So, what? In this, I would like to end it. I would like a 10-bell salute. I didn't bring my bell, but I'm sure that we can find one.
We will find a bell.
And so. So, from all of us, this is tough. I would like to say that, Johnny, we're just signing off, brother.